Okay. Biafra. There's a lot of agitation now. You've fought a lot trying to get us restructured politically as a country, so that we can have a less centralized system of government, and so on. And from you must set forth at dawn. Clearly, back then, you fought on behalf of the Biafrans, at least in terms of understanding why they were agitating for what they were agitating for back then. You had a bit of an understanding of their feelings back then, and you wrote, to that effect. And also during the war, there were your interventions, talking to Juku, talking to Victor Banjo, talking to Olusegun Obasanjo and everybody, trying to make sure the war didn't start. So on. Now there's a group out there saying, Biafra, we want out, we want to get out. And there are these agitations here, pockets of agitations here and there. What are your thoughts on that?
Look, let me begin by saying that, and I've written this numbers of times, I am not what you call a nationalist. And using that expression I'm debating the whole question of nation, especially in jingoistic terms. People say, our national sovereignty is sacrosanct, it cannot be touched, united we stand, divided we fall. All those cliche expressions, they don't make the slightest impression on me. Look at this vast area where we are now. Very serene, very calming. It's meaningless without the humanity. Before the real estate, before the property and so on, the primary purpose of existence for me is the amelioration of the condition of humanity. So humanity is prime. It's not the boundaries. It's not the geographical boundaries. We find ourselves in, let's say, in the nation of Sierra Leone. If we're born into Sierra Leone, we call ourselves Sierra Leoneans. Yeah. If we were born into Yugoslavia, we call ourselves Slavs or Yugoslavs or whatever. Eritrea, etc. United Kingdom. I'm mentioning a few nations who've gone through war or who've gone through experience of attempted secession or successful secession. And eventually they form a new conglomerate, a new entity, for better, for worse. Sometimes not necessarily for better. So in principle, it's the humanity who work the land, the humanity, who give meaning to real estate, not the real estate that gives meaning to humanity. Yeah. And so humanity must always be consulted. We've already gone through the experience in this country of a section which left us and went to the Cameroon. There's dispute over Bakassi. Yeah, even till today, some Nigerians have not given up on Bakassi. They say they're Nigerians. So who are you to say who's Nigerian, who's Cameroon? It's the people who are there. A plebiscite will decide where people want to be. And you can form associations in a way, through any of these, they call names, federalists, centralists, confederalists, etc., etc. Ultimately, you're talking about the humanity within that bounded state. I said at the time, I wrote an article, I remember at the time, during the war, and I said, Biafra cannot be defeated. People misunderstood what I was saying. I'm saying that once an idea has taken hold, you cannot destroy that idea. You may destroy the people, the carriers of that idea on the battlefield. Yes, this is known. But ultimately, it's not the end of the story. Otherwise, the Scots would not have gone recently through a process of trying to detach themselves from Great Britain, old as that democracy is.
Yes, yeah.
And yet that was taking place in the United Kingdom. So let's not take this position of don't even talk it. Under my watch, this will never happen. Don't say things like that. Go into that environment and ask, what is it that we can do to make you content, to make you happy, to make you feel part of this entity? There's no need. These are the advantages of staying. Listen to some other Biafrans and ask them why they want to stay. This is what we are ready to push as the overall governance authority in this area. But don't go around saying the sovereignty of this nation is indivisible, is non-negotiable. All that kind of language, for me, it only makes matters worse. So let us sit down. Let us talk once again, yet again, about restructuring the nation in a way in which no part of it would want to leave. The agitations, for me, are not surprising. It's to be expected. It will happen sooner or later.
Sitting down and talking about it, you're not referring to a national conference again, are
A
you?
genuine one, an authentic one, not one like the one Obasanjo said he called, which was just to try and perpetuate himself in office.
How about the one under President Jonathan?
The other one under the President Jonathan,
That seemed a bit extensive, wasn't it?
It was extensive. It covered lots and lots of grounds. It proposed some far-reaching, not far-reaching enough for me, but it proposed some far-reaching changes. It's about time we went back to efforts like that, genuine efforts like that.
Do you think the current government should go back to that particular conference?
I think it should certainly re-examine the propositions in all seriousness. It should really re-examine the propositions there. Even the conclusions, for me, there's certain unsatisfactory aspects. For instance, it didn't touch, unless, I don't let me go and shoot myself in the foot, but I don't remember that it touched the issue, the very critical issue in economic terms of part-time legislatures, for instance. That's one of the things dear to my heart. It did not go far enough in terms of decentralization. And I think what this nation needs is drastic decentralization, so that there's healthy competition between states with resources which states generate for themselves, and with a common, foreign policy, etc. But basically, a decentralization which puts the onus not merely of development, but of survival on the various states, in which now they have to sit down and say, how do we really become viable as a state, not depending on handouts from the center. I would like to see that kind of in-depth, structural, economic, federalist situation. That really is where I thought we were going. It didn't go far enough, but it's enough to start with. The changes which have been proposed, those are enough to start with.
That was vintage Professor Wole Soyinka. Next week, we'll show you the concluding part of that interview in which he spoke about Chinua Achebe and the most important thing in his life right now. Here's a teaser. Was he a better writer than you?
But you know that basically I don't compare literary works.